All right. I am Janice Fox. I am with the Tennessee Department of Education. I'm the Middle Tennessee Grand Region Core Director, and I'll be facilitating the Principal Advisory Subcommittee. I'm happy to be with each of you and support you through this process. I am going to share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started. We'll toggle over to our chair, Farrah Griffith, to get us through, but we'll start off with an introductory and a few things. So let me get my screen share.
I have terrible feedback. I'm trying to fix that.
Yeah.
We want to welcome everyone this morning. I hope you're excited about the work that we're going to do, but we're going to take a few minutes this morning and give everybody an opportunity to introduce yourself. I hope you had an opportunity to look through the materials and you are ready to have some good discussion today, but we'll start with introductions. My name is Farrah Griffith. I'm the principal at White County Middle School in Sparta, Tennessee. This is my 23rd year in education, my 6th year here at White County. I'm looking forward to these conversations about our BEP formula and how we could maybe change the way we think about educational funding. Janice and I spoke a few minutes this morning about how this is really an opportunity to be creative. So I hope that we can come up with some creative ideas. On my screen, we'll go with who I see next. We'll start with Corey since he was so busy before we got. Corey, tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, my name is Corey Lindberg. I'm the principal at Ocoee Middle School in Bradley County, so located in Cleveland, southeast part of the state. So yeah, just honored to be a part. Looking forward to being a part of the discussion and hopefully making some positive movement as we look at funding. So I'm excited to work with you guys.
All right, next on my screen is Lee.
Yeah, Lee Ziegler from Hickson High School, just outside of Chattanooga, across the river in Chattanooga. Been here this is my 2nd year, but over 30 years in education. So just excited to be part of the process and to learn more about the process.
Jenna.
I'm Jenna Sharp. I'm the principal at Clinton Elementary School in Clinton, Tennessee. It's a little bit north of Knoxville. I have been in education for 20 years, and this is my 10th year as an administrator. And I'm looking forward to being a part of this process so that I can also be fully transparent to my stakeholders about where our funding goes, and I can't wait to see where we go with it.
All right. Lance.
Lance Taylor. I'm the principal at Union Elementary STEAM and Demonstration School in Gallatin, Tennessee. This is my 29th year in education and 19th year as an administrator. Being from a Title I school where I was principal for 13 years and now at a choice school based on a lottery, a more affluent school, I see the needs of both schools. And I'm excited to be able to represent my teachers, my students, and even my colleagues within Sumner County to have a voice. And I appreciate this voice that we've been given. And I think we have a very serious task that working together, we can make a huge impact for the better for our kids and our teachers and society in general, because I think this all it's in a great thing if we can get this funding changed and more equitable and something that's best for our kids and for our teachers. Then I think we have a huge task ahead of us, but I'm excited about it.
Thank you. Kim. Kimberly, can you hear us? Monty, you want to go next while We're waiting on her.
Hi, I'm Monty Hillis, and I'm sorry for rolling in on two wheels. I'll know when the delivery truck has the streets blocked, it's a task. I am at Bobby Ray Elementary. I'm Farrah's neighbor, just out of White County and Warren County, Middle Tennessee. This is my 35th year, and a dozen of them in administration. In those 35 years, I've not done anything quite like this as far as looking at the state financial piece of it. So I'm very excited about learning more about that.
And Kimberly, can we get to you?
Hello.
Nancy, is that you?
Yes, this is Nancy. I was having a hard time. It said the meeting was canceled on my end.
All right, we're here, and if you don't care, we'll let you be next. Everybody's taking just a minute to introduce themselves.
Okay. Well, I am Nancy Lay. I'm the principal at Elk Valley Elementary in Campbell County, and I'm kind of excited to be a part of this committee and learn and grow with you all, and hopefully give some good advice as to how we can help the BEP.
Awesome. I'm going to try Kimberly one more time.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, so I see her waving now. Hey,
I'm
Kimberly.
texting her too, so hey.
Hi guys. I'm so sorry. I am multitasking. I'm at a walkthrough in Dayton City with the network that we're a part of, the LIN network. So they just left to go do an observation, and now I'm here all alone, so I can come off of mute. Am I just introducing myself? Is that what I've missed? Okay, I'm Kimberly Charette. I was a principal for 8 years. This is my first year, very new at a district level position. I am the early grades academic advisor for Marion County, Tennessee. But I had a wonderful experience working with these ladies on the Principal Advisory Committee, and I was just so thrilled that they asked me to be a part of this subcommittee. Because my heart, even though I've moved up to the district level, I think my heart will be in principalship for a while. So good to see everybody.
Good to see you. Farrah, so we had a quick intro then with everyone. All right, we'll move into the next part. It's great to be with each of you and to hear about our work together, to think through a future funding for our students. I want to begin, we'll begin each session with this statement to really help us hone in on our focus and purpose as you all are working together to think about the needs for students and your particular perspective as a principal. So I'll just, if you'll bear with me, I'll just read through this. But the Tennessee Department of Education is excited to work with you on this opportunity to discuss the state's formula for funding public education. Before we begin, the department would like to remind you of the following. Conversations on this topic are not intended to reflect on the current BEP funding formula. The current BEP funding formula will remain in place until a new funding formula is recommended to and approved by the Tennessee General Assembly. The public is encouraged to submit comments in writing to ensure that all communications are thoroughly documented and can be reviewed and considered in the future. Public comment is encouraged to focus on developing a new funding formula rather than revising the current funding formula. Consider what should be funded in a new funding formula and at what level. Subcommittees will be responsible for reviewing public comment and making recommendations for what should be included in a new funding formula. While all committees, subcommittees, and members of the public should feel free to communicate openly, documents and records may be subject to public inspection pursuant to the Tennessee Public Records Act and may be publicly posted or otherwise made available. All recommendations that are submitted by committees and subcommittees will be reviewed and considered, but not all recommendations will ultimately be included in the proposed new funding formula. So just to help us keep our focus and think about that new future state for our students in Tennessee, and again, honing in on the perspectives that are unique that you bring to the consideration for this process. I think, Farrah, we have moved into the agenda a bit. I will move through those. I think did we hit that well enough?
The big blue dot.
Not quite sure what else is supposed to be on the big blue dot, but we've got it. All right. Well, it's great to introduce from each of you, getting to know a little more about you, and I'm sure we'll continue that. I'm going to kick it on over then to Farrah, and my role will be to facilitate and help kind of lift off some of the clicking and presenting the invite. I'm sorry if there was a snafu. I noticed that some were not able to get the invite, so we put it back in a invite email. So we'll be sure I'll do that to make sure I've got each of you, and now that I've got your emails, and some bounced back. So we'll get that kink worked out, but I will go on mute and kick it over to you. And Farrah, just yell if you need anything. I'm right here.
Okay. So listening to everyone in their introduction, I think we are well represented across the state as principals, but we want to think about the lens of our committee. And our goal is to look at the specific and unique needs of student groups represented in all of our schools. And I think we've got urban, suburban, and rural communities represented. So I think we have a good opportunity to speak on behalf of all those groups. The goals and specific supports that are needed for students to be successful in specific areas represented by our committee, such as post-secondary readiness. And we have high school folks, and of course, middle school folks look at that as well, but that's always a target, even down to kindergarten. And the needs of all learners, along with the specific student groups based on their experiences and expertise of practitioners who work with students every day, such as teachers, advisors, student engagement, and district leadership committees. So as we think about what the needs are of our specific groups of students, and then thinking about fresh ideas and creative ideas on how we could fund the support of all those groups of people. So we're going to spend some time here in this section. Did everybody have an opportunity to look through the information that you received before today? So we will be getting resources and materials as we go through these meetings over the next couple of months. But are there things that you can think of as you're thinking about our task that we need? Are there additional resources or materials that you think would be helpful for us in the process? If you've got things that you have been thinking about that we need, unmute yourself and tell us what those are so we can be gathering that information. Are there any questions about the process or the information that you've received thus far? Not everybody at once.
I want to make sure that I got what I am supposed to get. Like there were individual slides. Is that what it was? I think it was all set in maybe Google or something like that. Individual slides plus a toolkit that explained. Is that what we're talking about here? Okay, great. All right, just making sure I had the right resources.
Are there any other items you think would help us in our task? Nothing?
I was fair. I don't know if I just haven't seen it in the slide deck or in the Google Slides presentation. I don't know if we want to look at any comparisons to any other state. Like I looked at some of the additional stuff to review. I don't know if that's something that we would want to look at. I don't know how deep we're going to get. It's kind of hard to know what we're going to need at this point, but that's the only thing that I thought, I've just really not spent any time researching how our funding formulas compare to other states. So
that's exactly what I was thinking, along with I know that we aren't focusing on the old BEP, but just having a frame of reference as to what is currently being spent and what the suggestions are could potentially help. and I'm not sure where to go to get that information.
Hey, let's see. I think in our slide deck there, let me pull that over and see if this link would be helpful in your, let's see, the overview of funding. Yeah.
Yeah, Janice, I may have just missed it. Like if I saw it, if it's in there, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. It's good to go back and point that out. There's a lot of information, and so no worries.
Okay, and that's not the slide deck I'm talking about. So hold
Okay.
1 moment.
Right. So some of the additional resources here, this was on slide 15 and it was attached to the invite. Can certainly send that again and drop that for you.
Oh, there it is. I see that. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, but you've got this. So does everybody have this slide deck? It's a PDF that was attached. Okay. Good deal.
Janice, did we lose Representative Gillespie? He was on at the very beginning. Is he gone?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't see him here. Yep.
I just want to make sure that we didn't miss him for introductions.
Okay. All right. Yep. Those are some great resources. Anything else there that you might be, you can certainly flag it as you go.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the meat of our discussion today. So let's pose a question. What do you hope to be true for students in Tennessee? Now, and the conversation Janice and I had earlier was we only know what we know, and it's hard to think outside the box sometimes because we've been put in a box for many, many years. If we think about sky's the limit, what do we hope for students in Tennessee? It's the most talkative bunch of people I've ever seen.
In general, that they have all their needs met in our public schools, specifically at elementary age. Are there reading tutors? Are there math tutors? Are there reading interventionists? I have a reading interventionist, but I don't have a math interventionist. Funding would help. That would help students. I'm sure at the high school level, ACT prep, end of course prep, middle school level, that they vary as far as academics, that our children would be on the same page as some of these other states. I looked at one of those links. Connecticut, for example, was somewhere around 11,975 as what it said a baseline when you compare that with Tennessee's and other states. While we don't have their tax structure, I would just hope that Tennessee school students would have the same quality of education that kids in other states get. And I do think that some of that has to do with funding, reallocating some of our funds, maybe increasing our funds to help support these students, not only for intervention, but also for enrichment for our high achieving students also.
I agree. I think sometimes they're the most forgotten souls in the building.
I'd
Well,
like to add on, sorry. I'd like to add on to what he said with resources, not only the resources they need for their academics, but the resources as far as personnel that we have, whether that be needs for special education assistance, or I think right now our school system, we're Clinton City, so we are kind of small, but I think it's 1.5 nurses for what the amount of students that we have, but we have 3 schools and we have severe medical needs in each school. So definitely resources, just all around with personnel as well. And how we can allocate that better to serve those needs.
Well, and I know for me, just my hope for students of Tennessee is very generic. I just want them to be competitive for the job force, be competitive. Like I don't like when they rank, the states and we're not in the top, 10, top, I want our students to have the exact same, not exact same, but as equitable of an education as anywhere else in the US. And then of course, even from a global standpoint, being competitive. So, and then as far as resources, my goodness, equity in resources. Sometimes we have a blanket, not necessarily funding formula, but we're going to make sure that every district has one reading interventionist when maybe one district doesn't even need a reading. I mean, obviously that's not true, but does that make sense? Like just equity based on your student need, not necessarily on the number of students, if that makes sense.
I was really surprised in reading that there are 39 states that already have student-based funding, and we're one of them that does not.
Mm-hmm.
And what that really looks like, when I looked at the comparisons of K-12 special ed funding, I couldn't decipher with some of the states that weren't far off from Tennessee that are student-based already. I'm interested to see how that paradigm shift affects funding from resources-based to student-based. I think that we do need programs to enrich students, but I'm a bigger people over programs person. I believe that we have more help, like it was alluded to, more nurses. That does take care of the whole child. More assistance to help with inclusion, lowering class sizes, different things like that as far as the people. And some of the programs that other states have that they can offer their students, we can't because of funding. So it's not about pushing programs at kids. It's my biggest thing would be resources with personnel, nurses, more teachers, more qualified teachers, and funding that. And because we, like she said, 1.5 nurses for that many kids. Our school system still shares nurses, and it's you just can't do that with so many high needs kids now.
I would agree with what
agree
you
with
said and with what Jenna said regarding the personnel and the resources, but I would also add that in a school like mine with high poverty, I need things like social workers. I need those social needs to be met right off the bat. We're throwing food at them 3 times a day, and we're doing some of those types of things. But back to what he said, I need personnel that are trained to do some of the things just to start to get them on equal footing so that then I can meet that quality of education based on the needs that are not being met at home and in society.
I love how you said trained personnel, Monty, because I feel like we can get people in here, but getting them then the training is another story. So I love how you brought up that.
I totally agree with the personnel thing. We currently with ESSER funding, we have plenty of programs. We just don't have the personnel to make sure those programs are done properly. At my school, we don't even have a counselor, and which is something that's highly needed. So even looking on a different part of it is even given personnel, we need to make sure in some facet that all schools are recognized with that or are given those things, because in my district, like I said, we don't even have a counselor at my school, but all other schools do. We're a small school, we don't have the student population, and therefore they say, you just don't have enough students to grant any of these things that are necessary. And to me, one student is all I need. That's how I look at it. But because no student is in greater need than another, they all have needs. So I think, going beyond just needing the personnel, but just ensuring that all students have access to that personnel, all students.
And I'm for, and I'm blessed to be in the situation I'm in. But I'm for bringing schools like Nancy, get them that counselor that they don't even have. The school system that's sharing nurses, make sure that every school has a nurse before I get more. That may not be what everyone in my district feels, because you think about yourself. It's on you think about what you need. But what is necessary is Nancy having a counselor more than me having a math interventionist. These schools having at least a nurse rather than sharing a nurse going 3 different schools. Coming from a 81% free and reduced Title I school, I've been there without, and now that I have, and I'm blessed to have, but I think that equity starts with at least getting people what the rest of us have, to be honest. And then from there, building on what we all should have. Now, Nancy should have a counselor. And once she gets that counselor and other schools get similar positions, then what do we all need? What do we all deserve? And I don't mean we as the principals, but our constituents, these students. So level the playing field by getting Nancy a counselor and 3 nurses for 3 schools. And then once that's leveled within our state, keep proposing things that would bring us up to par with states that are quote unquote doing better than us.
And I think that goes back to the fact that we're working off a 30-year-old system. The need for nurses 30 years ago looked different than it looks today. Because when I was in college, I worked at the high school, and I'm the one that administered medicine at the age of 21 to the 2 kids out of 1,000 that took a medication at school. 2. Okay, I have 2 every hour here, and our school system earns 1 nurse via the BEP formula, and we have 9 schools. So that's left for our county. They pay for the nurses at the rest of the schools, and it's not a nursing salary. It's a teacher's assistant salary for a certified nurse. So yeah, the needs have just shifted. The social emotional needs look different than they did 30 years ago. The need for that social worker in Monty's building is vastly different than it was when the formula was created. So I think those are all great hopes and perspectives on what we would see as needs for resources. And I'd say everybody's list looks about the same. That was my list. I jotted down some notes beforehand, and you guys hit all of those points. So I would think that probably is the major things weighing on most of our minds as we think about reformulating how we fund education. So I think we have Amber on here now. So Amber, we'll pause for just a second and let you tell us who you are and where you are, and then we'll let you hop in with us.
I'm not really at the beach, but anyway, I'm Amber Raymer, and I am at Cheatham County, West Cheatham Elementary School. I have been an administrator for 22 years and a teacher here 16 years prior to that. My hope is that I'll learn more about what my role is on this committee, because I'm not sure. Lot of resources to look through and some information to look through, and I'm not sure where to get started. So I'm hoping that I get that through this being on this committee, but also to help. I'm in a rural system and I've been there forever, it seems. And to see that hopefully the funding becomes equitable across the state of Tennessee, and we're not in the lower quadrant anymore, and that we can at least get to the middle or even higher than that, because it's been a long time coming. So.
Well, we'll muddle through this together, Amber, so we'll learn as we go as a group.
Yep. And I was listening to the you know, y'all talking about resources. I came late because I thought we were canceled, and then I thought I want to check again, and yes, we are. We're here. But anyway, what's hitting us in our county is a lot of the mental issues, mental health issues that lead into behavioral issues, and it's a lot of it's just a lot. And so our counselor gets overwhelmed by the amount of children that are having mental and behavioral issues. And in our district, there's really not a lot of help for that. And so I'm hoping that some of the resources that come out of the new funding would be to help put some mental health experts into the school system. I mean, we have Centerstone here, but they can only take a certain child that has the right insurance, that kind of thing. So it doesn't affect everybody, and they can't help everybody.
I say that every week. We have the Centerstone person too, and it's sad that we have kids that have the wrong insurance that don't get services because of it.
Right.
I absolutely agree. Well, welcome to our group. We're glad you got on.
Thank you.
So we meet again in a couple of weeks, but coming up next week on Monday, you will receive a batch of information. Janice, do you want to kind of give a little background as to what that's going to be or consist of?
Yeah, happy to. So you'll be receiving a batch of the feedback. So feedback coming to us from multiple sources that are happening across the state right now from our feedback sessions. And then, of course, they'll be through Twitter. And so we're really wanting to cast that wide net and get folks to weigh in and provide their opinion. So we are definitely wanting your feedback is welcome. So that if you receive information as well and feedback, you may send that over to tnedu.funding@tn.gov. So I'll also put that in the chat in just a second so you'll have it there, but that's a place that will be surfacing all of our feedback. So that'll be coming to you by next Monday, so November 15th. And then your deliverable, so that task that you'll be getting is to take that information, sift through that. So that is a way for you to really pull in your perspective, think through and categorize that feedback and those resource ideas into one of 4 groups. So those must-haves, things I heard you all surface in your conversation. So must-haves, should have, nice to have, and then other. And that's what you'll be bringing back, and be prepared to discuss those when we return in our next meeting. One of the guiding questions there over the next actually week, because our next meeting is going to be on, well, 2 weeks, the 23rd. But the question then to help as you're sifting and sorting through the feedback is, how does the subcommittee want to solicit or collect feedback to help you answer some of the questions that might surface as you're reviewing that information? So you may want to pause here and have that discussion.
So my initial thought there, Janice, is reaching out to our principal study council. And I don't know what that looks like in all areas of the state, but the Upper Cumberland, even though we've not met formally this year, we do communicate back and forth. So that might be an opportunity in different areas to reach out to other principals in your region. I'd say everybody has a story to tell. We just need to ask for them.
Yeah, that sounds right. Are there anything that you might need to help as you're processing, thinking about how you would solicit? Are there any needs that come to mind around that outreach or contact?
What's your thought on the best way to gather that if we wanted to pursue that type of route? like a Google form or?
I know for the Southeast, we would definitely need something that we could send out to our principals because unfortunately, we aren't a strong collaborative team yet. I am certain that that will happen for the Southeast. But yeah, I would say that we needed something, some type of form so that we could just push it out to our principals.
Would you want the feedback that we're getting from them in the same, just, do you want it general or maybe, do you want them to give us feedback in the, if we did like a Google sheet that had the must have, should have, nice to have and other? Which one are you thinking of when we get that feedback?
I would think we probably do need to categorize it to make the most of our time together, would be my thought. So if we solicit and ask, then we would probably have to gather and synthesize and kind of categorize before.
I'm sorry, I meant if we email out to other principals in our areas, do you just want the general, or you're saying go ahead and have them categorize it? So when we get together.
Right. So you'll be emailed and you'll be receiving a lot of that, all the batch of that feedback that's surfaced. Then you can sort through. And if there are questions or things that you may have that you would want to also solicit more feedback from constituents, stakeholders that you could connect to, then you would want to pull that in and then add that to your sort would probably be a good way to keep that organization between the must-haves and just to help you maybe make sense of any questions that surfaced based on the information that was in that batch. You may encounter a need for some clarification or just, oh, I need to know more about this. So just as you're reviewing the information that comes to you, that might be part of how you're digesting that you could solicit some support and feedback from all of those stakeholders and getting them to weigh in.
And to kind of answer your question, Jenna, I think if you're asking principals, you could have them categorize must have, should have, nice to have. But I think if you're soliciting the community or parents or different stakeholder groups, it would probably just be general, and then we would need to do that. I don't know that John Q. Public would know how to categorize that per se.
Thank you.
I'm thinking about, if I sent that out through Skyward to parents, what that would look like.
That's why I'm giggling. It would probably be quite entertaining.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There might be some entertainment value to that. Those ESSER questionnaires had some fun things, but there were some really great ideas that came from those community surveys. So occasionally that's a pretty good option. So Janice, when we get this email next week, will that be coming from you or Scott, or who do we need to look for that information to be coming from?
Great question. Chelsea was providing that information yesterday, so I will get that clarified and circle back to you, Farah, so that you can give everyone the heads up, say, hey, this is coming. But definitely coming from either me or may send it or from Chelsea, but we'll get it to you and have it streamlined.
Okay.
That's a good question. I surfaced something, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it, but it was also before we totally close out, would be thinking through a vice chair in case you would need that as you all are moving forward. That could be something to think about just and mention on today's call, or you could totally, and then do that on the next one on meeting 2, but definitely wanting the conversation to continue from the group, and in case something happens and Farah can't be here, how to handle that. So we'll pin that for you to decide. Just wanted that on your radar.
Somebody want to volunteer? Again, not everybody at once. So whoever's not here, I guess then let's look back at the roll call. So we'll let that be one of our first pieces of business on the 23rd. How about that? So whoever wants to brave the challenge can take it at that point. Other questions or ideas, concerns, need for clarity?
So what's our homework?
So our homework will be when we get information next Monday to go through that batch of feedback, make those categorizing decisions, and then we'll open up with some discussion about the information that we have. So does that sound about right, Ms. Fox? So Dr. Fox and I will, is it safe to assume, Janice, that we'll get information a little quicker before the next meeting than this time? Okay.
Yes, I've got both fingers crossed. Yes, absolutely. You should get information typically 1 week in advance. That way you have time to digest that. Definitely. And I will get back with you to kind of send out to the group. We'll confirm, yes, this email will be coming from, so you can have it on your radar and look for it. I know your emails get very busy.
So do we want to take just a minute, Janice, before we close and look at the process structure? Just to make sure that we kind of have clarity on where we're headed.
Mm-hmm. Happy to do that. I'll pull that, just layer it over. I think so on this slide deck, that process started on slide 25. And so looking through, yeah, so just so you'll be getting the batch of feedback that's being collected across the state as we have our events, our TDOE events, public meetings. These are all happening over, been happening over the couple of months, and we'll be having 8 town hall public meetings. And we'll have Twitter conversations. So lots of feedback that will be coming to you, collected, sent to the subcommittees, and then your recommendations will be pulling that together for steering committee recommendations. So that's the overview process of the structure. Again, the feedback, we'll definitely want to please solicit for the feedback to go to that tnedu.funding@tn.gov. That information, they can please provide that in writing via email, post mail, snail mail, all the social media comments, pulling all of that together. Paralegal will code the information, and then we will provide that back to you all so that you can sort. So I imagine we'll be getting several batches, but that first batch will be coming on Monday, November 15th.
Are we all getting the same information, or for instance, there's 8 town halls? Are we getting some of us getting information from certain town halls, or we're just getting all of the information? All of us are getting all of the feedback from all of these different town halls.
Yeah, that's a great question, but I think pulling those in together into batches and sending, so you all would be having that common information that would be that felt like it was best suited for the perspectives for principal advisory subcommittees. Yeah. Yeah, and let's see. Yeah, and so and then this process for us to review and for you all to really weigh in and think through from your perspective about that future funding. So that is the process. Again, you all have that that slide deck.
If you don't, I think Kimberly says that she's not sure if she has that. If you're not sure that you have that slide deck, throw something there in the chat for us and we'll make sure that happens.
Thank you. All right, I'll make sure that you get that.
Okay, so we're a little ahead of schedule. If anybody has anything else to share, if not, we'll go about our day. I'm sure there's some cafeteria duty waiting for someone. We appreciate your time, and hopefully we can make good use of our time over the next few meetings and get some good information out to reformulate funding for kids. I appreciate all of you guys and your comments. I think we all share a common goal, which should make our job easier.
Yeah, I look forward to reconvening then on November 23rd, same time, 11:30. I hope we have all the kinks, so I apologize again for any kinks in the invite. So I will can make sure all the emails go and get those to you. But thanks so much. And you get like a couple of minutes back. You all are so productive.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon. We'll see you next time.